Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Today we're watching every single Space Marine rank explained by more lore. I am super interested in it, so let's get into it.
Ranks have been used to organize militaries for generations, and since it is a war game that is filled with many different armies, the wild science fantasy of Warhammer 40k is no exception. But while some armies, like the Astra Militarum, have hierarchies and rank systems that could be familiar to us, the warriors of the Adeptus Astartes, or Space Marines, are organized in some very unique ways. So, since many of the most epic stories of this setting involve these superhuman warriors of the Imperium, we thought it would be a good idea to get acquainted with the rank structure of the Space Marines. The journey to superhuman existence starts as an aspirant. The many organizations of the Adeptus Astartes find these fresh recruits in a variety of ways, but they are always expected to be the very best of what humanity has to offer, as anything less could not hope to even survive the process of becoming a Space Marine, much less endure the rigors of their lives. And so the process begins by finding those uncanny individuals. Most chapters have a homeworld that they recruit from, like the Ultramarines and their world of Macrogg. Fleet-based chapters, however, find their aspirants on worlds in which they have established outposts and fortress monasteries. The Black Templars are well known for this style of recruitment, stopping at planets they've previously liberated to pick up new recruits as they crusade around the galaxy. These worlds range in their technological sophistication, but most Marine chapters prefer to recruit from primitive worlds where life is harsher, guaranteeing that their pool of recruits is already hardier than most. Even chapters who recruit from established Imperial worlds try to only recruit from populations that select for survivalist traits, such as Hivegangers. Quite often, these populations view service to these mysterious sky gods as a mark of pride, and festivals are held on the regular intervals that chapters send their recruitment teams. Once a pool of aspirants has been gathered, there will typically be some sort of trial, a contest of strength, endurance, and will that further weeds out the weaker hopefuls. These tests are usually specific to the chapter culture, but they all generally test the hardiness of the aspirants, keeping in mind that these humans are typically younger than 15 years old, as older recruits tend not to survive the process of becoming a Space Marine at all. Having won or at least survived their contest, the most promising aspirants are then taken by the giant Marine recruiters back to their chapter to begin the process and never see their families again. As a new member of the chapter, the children
I thought the salamanders were able to see their families. Am I right, or are they an exception?
aspirants become neophytes and are immediately put to work.
Sorry.
They learn the chapter's histories, routines, and the behavior expected of them in between surgeries, of course. There are quite a few of these before a neophyte is considered fit for combat duty, and each chapter has their own unique way of going about this process. Most chapters assign their youngest members to the scout squads in order to learn how to use their war gear in a relatively safe environment. Some chapters, like the Space Wolves, decide to put their neophytes into squads of frontline fighters called Blood Claws, arming them like a full battle brother and allowing them to work out their youthful exuberance in the harshest part of a battle. And there are others that are more distinct, like the Black Templars, who mix their neophytes into their tactical squads so they might learn from the brothers they are assigned to squire for, or the Grey Knights, who do not allow their neophytes to take part in combat at all until they have finished the process of becoming fully fledged Space Marines. Regardless of the method, very few neophytes survive the surgeries and their combat duties to make it to become Space Marines. The vast majority of a chapter's members are simply battle brothers. These are the main force itself, and rather than separating them by further ranks, Marines prefer to fight as relative equals for most of their careers. A battle brother is armed and trained with almost every weapon and bit of war gear that the chapter has access to, and are organized into squads as their superiors feel suits their personality, although quite a few chapters have traditions about how and when a battle brother can progress through each type of battlefield role. Line infantry, assault troops, heavy weapons, special weapons, tank crews, all of these roles are filled by the rank-and-file battle brothers of a chapter. In addition to that, during their time spent as a battle brother, an Astartes warrior might be marked for more specialized duties, and it's in this way that new apothecaries, tech marines, and chaplains are recruited. Other than that, a battle brother that survives centuries of combat duty can perhaps hope to be given a leadership rank or brought into the fold of the veteran companies. The first true rank in our list is given to those brothers who show an aptitude for leadership and strategy. Sergeants are given a squad of their brothers or neophytes to lead and are given some extra training to that effect. Typically, these Marines have proven their ability to keep their cool under pressure and put the mission's goals ahead of all other concerns. In the Astra Militarum, a sergeant is there to keep the morale of their troops from buckling, but a Space Marine feels no fear, and so that isn't what keeping their cool means. For an Astartes, getting carried away typically means that they allow their zeal to expose them to more dangerous situations. Power armor is an amazing bit of kit, but if you run into a full gun line because some Chaos Marine said the Emperor was a nerd, it won't help you much. Sergeants keep their brother's rage focused where it should be, on the mission. Most squad leaders in the Space Marines are marked out by a different colored helmet. Typically this will be red, but some chapters, often the ones with red colored armor, choose a different hue, like the Blood Angels using yellow helmets and iconography to mark out their sergeants. And as sergeant is the rank of squad leaders in general, you can also find veteran sergeants leading squads of a chapter's veteran units, like Stern Guard, command squads, and terminators. An older rank from the pre-Heresy Legions, Lieutenant, was recently brought back into the organization of the Space Marine chapters by Ultramarine Primarch Roboute Guilliman. Lieutenants are like sub-captains and are often found leading fully half of their respective companies to lighten the burden of leadership for the company captains. These demi-companies are typically led by a lieutenant who reports back to their captain, leading to increased flexibility for the force as a whole. It's also not uncommon to find a lieutenant leading a smaller strike force of Marines when it would be unnecessary to have a captain do so. Lieutenants are, as a consequence, almost always pulled from the veteran companies and usually have served as veteran sergeants for some time, using the centuries of knowledge to guide their brothers to victory. They are often viewed as the most likely candidates to replace their captains should they fall in battle. As with most other Space Marine ranks, most chapters have their own unique names for lieutenants, even though almost all of them fill the same role. Black Templar Castellans, Space Wolf Battle Leaders, and Iron Hands Naismiths all help their superiors direct overall strategy and troop movement, allowing their captains to focus on the most pivotal parts of a battle. Wolf Lords, Masters, Marshals, Khans, captains by any name in any chapter do one thing: lead. Space Marine captains are the second highest rank in a chapter's organization. Each chapter is organized into companies, or again, whatever the chapter in question calls their formal battle groups. Each company is typically filled with 100 Astartes warriors in their various vehicles, servants, technicians, and war gear. A small army in their own right, and so each of them requires a captain to lead them. Not able to be everywhere at once, a captain makes use of their lieutenants and other advisors to direct the flow of battles and entire campaigns, only taking to the field themselves when their direct supervision and might is required. This sort of appearance usually coincides with the captain's command squad, hand-picked veteran warriors from their company that guard their leaders while they make decisions, assist with assaults, and hold the company banner to inspire the other battle brothers. Being a captain also necessitates being part of chapter politics, which, depending on the chapter, can be fraught with its own risks, but generally this only entails discussing with the other captains and the chapter's various masters about various campaigns, strategies, and large decisions the chapter needs to make as a whole. Just like how lieutenants act as advisors and successors for their captains, so too do captains advise their chapter masters, and when a master is killed, one captain from amongst their number will be chosen to become the next overall leader of the chapter. Now we're getting into the specialist ranks, and as per usual, they are only ranks in the loosest of terms. These specialists are technically outside of the normal hierarchies of their chapters, answering only to lieutenants and above, though these leaders quite often yield to the more focused experience of their specialist when they need to ask them anything. The first of these are the warrior healers of a chapter's apothecarian, known usually as apothecaries. Apothecaries handle all of a chapter's medical needs, from the creation of new Space Marines to emergency surgeries on the battlefield. As a result, a Space Marine apothecary doesn't just need to be handy with a scalpel, they also need to know their way around.
So they're basically medics, right? Doctors. But they are more than just a regular medic we have.
A bolter. One of the most important duties of these medics is the stewardship of a chapter's gene seed, the progenoid glands that allow for the creation of new Marines. When an Astartes falls in combat, it's the job of an apothecary to offer what piece they can, and then harvest the glands stored in the neck and abdomen, sealing them in armored tubes so they can later be grafted into a neophyte. Space Marines go to war using a wide variety of gear, weapons, and vehicles, and as such, they are in need of a group of specialists who can maintain their tech, which is often ancient and irreplaceable. However, the Astartes would never accept outsiders into their chapters, and so, long ago, a pact was made with the Tech Priests of Mars. Any Battle Brothers with an affinity for technology would be sent to train on the Red Planet and return to their chapters as Tech Marines so they could maintain a chapter's mechanical strength. Like apothecaries, Tech Marines operate outside the normal hierarchies of a chapter, with the notable exception of the Iron Hands, whose captains and other leaders are often drawn from the Tech Marines of their armory. Like every other Astartes, Tech Marines are entirely capable of defending themselves in combat, and often have additional mechanical limbs thanks to the servo harness that many of them are equipped with. Welding, cutting, and repair tools make pretty decent weapons, as it turns out. Another specialist rank in the Astartes chapter organization scheme, chaplains look after the spiritual well-being of their battle brothers. And here's where things get a little weird, because Marines don't have the same relationship to the Imperial religion as the rest of humanity does, except for the Black Templars, but even these most zealous of Space Marines don't exactly treat worship the same way as mortal humans do. Most Astartes venerate the Emperor as their very literal creator and more figurative father, a connection that no other human could really claim to have, beyond the metaphorical anyway. And so while a Space Marine chaplain acts as a religious leader and a keeper of the chapter's individual traditions and doctrine, they mostly just lead their brothers in prayer and keep the holy days scheduled properly until they are called to fight, that is. In combat, a chaplain's other responsibilities come into play much more noticeably, because a chaplain's most important function is to keep the zeal of their brothers high to remind them of their duty as protectors of the Emperor's realms. And so chaplains are often found in the thickest fighting, swinging the winged mace that is their symbol of office, the Crozius Arcanum, and chanting the many canticles of their faith to energize their brothers, while their black armor and skull-faced helms terrify the enemies. Lastly, chaplains are generally responsible for disciplining their brothers. When a Marine breaks a rule or performs poorly, it's often the chaplains who dictate the penance that needs to be undertaken before a Marine can be free of their shame. If a neophyte shows any psychic potential at all, they are immediately whisked away by members of the last of the specialist ranks in the Adeptus Astartes, the Librarians. And while the image of sweater-wearing, bespectacled book nerds the size of a Space Marine is funny, the chapter librarians have little in common with their modern counterparts. I mean, they're still book nerds, but that's about all. They might enjoy sweaters too. The members of a chapter's librarius keep careful records of the chapter's deeds and history, as their name would imply, but they are also the sanctioned psychers of their orders, marked by their bright blue armor, psychic hoods, and various psychic weaponry, lending their considerable might to the already terrifying arsenal of the Space Marines. Regular psychers who operate in the Astra Militarum or other Imperial factions are frightening enough with their ability to harness the warp to do anything from defend their allies to smite their foes. But mortal human psychers are always 1 foot in damnation and must be watched for when, not if, they ever succumb to the powers they wield. Not so with the Space Marine Librarian. Space Marines are legendary for their mental fortitude, but even amongst their brothers, librarians are strongly willed. All of the physical and mental endurance that comes with being a Space Marine only helps focus the powers of a psyker, and the results are incredible. Space Marine Psykers are some of the strongest warp users in the galaxy, with some, like Cato Tigurius of the Ultramarines, being so powerful that they can achieve truly incredible feats, like interfacing with the Tyranid hive mind. Every one of these specialist ranks acts as an advisor to their brothers in more conventional positions of power, but the Librarians are perhaps valued more than all others. While not explicitly a separate rank, veterans in every chapter are marked out from their peers in some way, and from their ranks alone come the candidates for lieutenants, captains, and masters of the various chapter organizations. Veterans are typically marked by white helmets, stripes, or other iconography, which applies to denoting veteran members of other ranks. For instance, veteran sergeants are often denoted by a red helmet with a white stripe, and again, different chapters denote veteran status in different ways. Generally, all veterans in a chapter are pulled into its first company or equivalent. This means that squads of the hardened first company are often seconded to other companies or strike forces instead of fighting as one group like the battle companies do. Veteran Marines tend to form units like the Stern Guard, Vanguard Veterans, Command Squads, and Terminator Squads. Some veteran Marines are assigned to the more venerable war machines of the chapter, and so it's not impossible to find veteran tank crews amongst a chapter's roster. Special positions such as the Chapter Ancient, who has the honor of carrying the chapter's banner into war, or the Justiciar, who is the chapter's executioner, are also pulled from the ranks of the veterans. They are the most experienced, best equipped, and most trusted members of their orders. Masters are the highest ranks in any chapter, though once again, different chapters will sometimes have different names for these positions. They are always held by the most experienced and often the most senior of their organizations. For instance, the Master of Sanctity is the head of the chapter's Reclusium, where their chaplains are trained and operate. Master of the Apothecarian is the head medic, Master of the Forge is the chief tech marine, and so on. There are also some masters that hold positions like Master of the Fleet or Master of the Signal, typically held by captains who also command a chapter company in addition to their other duties to the fleet or chapter communications. Finally, of course, there is the chapter masters themselves, the captain chosen to lead the entire chapter as a whole and who guides their efforts across the galaxy. Typically held by warriors with centuries of experience as not just battle brothers but also as leaders, the ranks of chapter masters include easily the most heroic and legendary warriors in the Imperium. Marnius Calgar of the Ultramarines, Pedro Cantor of the Crimson Fists, and Gabriel Angelos of the Blood Ravens are names that reverberate through the Imperium. While not officially a rank in the Adeptus Astartes force, the Primarchs were the overall leaders of each of the 20 legions of Space Marines before the Horus Heresy. That was before the concept of a chapter was widespread, and so it's fair to say that Primarchs were the chapter masters of each legion. And while the Thunder Warrior legions that came before the Astartes did have a Primarch rank held by their supreme commanders, no equivalent rank has ever been held by a standard Astartes warrior, either during the Great Crusade nor in the 10,000 years that came after. For the Space Marines, the Primarchs were their gene fathers, the templates from which each legion's genetic code was taken. They operated according to the way their Primarchs ordered, and did their bidding in a way that made the Primarchs more like warlords than a formalized rank. So while we thought it was important to include them here for any folks newer to the setting, it's important to note that Primarch is not an official rank. So that was the whole list of ranks in Space Marine organizations. There's certainly some room to go into more detail for some of the more esoteric examples, and even the strange variations used in chapters like the Black Templars. So if you want to hear any more about these or other 40k topics in detail, let us know in the comments, and while you're there, don't forget to give us a like if you enjoyed the breakdown of the Astartes forces, and of course, subscribe so you can be notified whenever we bring you more lore.
Yeah, definitely check out their channel and give their video a like. It was very informative. I think I would want to be a librarian because of, I think he said the librarians had the best psychic powers, or was it the chaplains? So I'm kind of interested in psychic powers for some reason. It was very interesting. Tell me which rank was your favorite in the comment sections. Thanks for watching. See you later.